Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Kristen, one of the good doctors of Abbey Research. You see me on the right on your screen wearing the purple dress and with the long hair. And normally on this channel, I know our cameras are on, but with my guest today, it's actually better if the cameras are off. And we'll talk about that in a little bit later. So nothing's wrong. This is just a choice that's better for the guest. And because we're all about empathy here, we're gonna do what is best for the guest. So Abbey Research exists because curiosity is a superpower, and we believe heavily in learning how to ask questions and hold space for those answers. And that if we can do that as a people, we can actually change the world. And so we started this series called Welcome to My World, which is entirely about having conversations with fascinating folks whose lives are different than mine. And then you guys get to eavesdrop on them in the spirit of all of us learning a little bit more about each other. And my guest today is Zavanna Dova, who I met on Clubhouse. And you've heard about that app a little bit on this series so far. You met Tara Garrity a couple of weeks ago on this series, who I also met on Clubhouse, and a few other folks. And I really loved connecting with Zavanna and how honest she was about everything in her life in a really, really refreshing way. So I'm going to turn it over now to Zavanna and ask her to introduce herself a little bit. Zavanna, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I am super, super pumped up and super excited to be here. Yes, I wish I would have been able to do a little bit of video today, but sometimes, my fibromyalgia causes me a little bit more pain than usual, and having to do the makeup and the whole thing, definitely takes a toll on me a little bit more. So I'm excited to be here. I really want to thank you for having me a part of this. I'm super excited to be a part of your podcast and to be able to, I always say it's so important to be able to, even if there's one person that watches this or listens to this and they feel inspired, or they feel that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, or they feel hope, any kind of hope, that is a huge accomplishment. So I really, really appreciate being here. Yes, my name is Zavanna. I am the founder of liveandletsfashion.com. That is my blog that I started to be able to bring awareness to chronic illnesses and mental health. And I'm also the founder and owner of the Sisterhood of Influential Entrepreneurs that everybody knows about and is so excited about. I would say a lot of my time has definitely transitioned and been, very, very committed to the Sisterhood of Influential Entrepreneurs, because there's just so many people that are being helped. Every single Thursday, I run a room at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I run that room for chronic illnesses, mental health, and everything in between. And I feel like that's kind of helped so many people that I have been focusing more of my time on that. Whereas before I was focusing all of my time on the blog, but now I can actually hear people's voices and I could speak to people and pour into them and remind them that everything is going to be okay. And that has really, really, truly been absolutely such a blessing. So that's just a little bit about me.
I love it so much. I love this idea of how important it is to hear other people's voices too. So we'll get back to that in a little bit, in a minute. But first of all, you mentioned fibromyalgia, and obviously that's a huge part of your work now. So could you unpack that a little bit for my listeners? What is fibromyalgia?
Absolutely. So I'll tell you a little bit about the journey, because the journey was not easy at all. So I don't know if I've had it all my life or kind of how that happened, but my whole life, even when I was a little girl, I always used to tell my mom, I have these pains in my legs. They feel like growing pains. I have these pains. And my mom used to always, just kind of brush it off and say, oh, it's probably arthritis. Your grandma has arthritis. So my whole life, I just thought I had arthritis. And I don't know if it has anything to do with it, if it was kind of like pre-programmed in me, where eventually I was going to down the line have fibromyalgia either way. But I just feel like that's a little bit of a coincidence. But when so I was at the peak of my career. I knew my entire life that I wanted to model and act. I knew it. There was no plan B. I didn't have anything else planned out. I was going to succeed at modeling and acting. And I'm the type of person, when I put my mind to something, there is no stopping me. Like as soon as my mind is onto something and I'm passionate about something and I really, really love it, I will not stop until I succeed. So I was modeling and acting, and at the peak of my career, literally I had just finished filming the movie Creed #2, if you've ever seen that, or if anyone's ever seen that. And it was just at the peak of my career, and my back pain started getting worse and worse. Now, when I first started experiencing the pain from the fibromyalgia, it was just on a random day. I woke up, there was nothing that happened. I didn't work out or anything crazy like that to cause my body pain. I woke up one day and my entire life was flipped upside down. I had so much pain throughout my entire body that I couldn't even move. I had to go to the hospital. And when I went to the hospital, they just kind of brushed it off. You know, they saw a young girl coming in with back pain and they brushed it off, basically told me to take some medication and that I would be fine. And that I probably pulled pulled a muscle or something like that. So I went off, I left the hospital that day, and that day changed my entire life. From that day, the pain never went away. It never left. It wasn't some kind of a pulled muscle. It stayed with me forever. And my fiance would get 2 days off from work. So both days that he was off every single week, we were at doctor's appointments, in state, out of state, just trying to figure it out. And it took me 7.5 years until I was finally diagnosed. And I happened to be diagnosed just by luck, to be honest. I had an appointment at this hospital, and I guess, I don't know if maybe one of the doctors or somebody called out, but the guy who actually saw me, he was the director of the rheumatology department. So he actually was no longer seeing patients or helping patients. But that day was my lucky day because he's the one that told me it was fibromyalgia. He sent me home that day with a bunch of, paperwork on fibromyalgia, what to do, what to try, everything, just everything. And he helped me a lot. But every doctor I saw prior to that, every time it was, you're fine, you look fine, everything's fine, getting all these tests done. I mean, I've gotten done, the spinal tap, that I will tell you was not fun. Lots of blood work, all of these things, just all of these tests and everything. It was years and years of trying to find answers and looking for answers. And so when I finally got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, now prior to that, I forgot to mention, prior to that, I was always told, go see a psychiatrist, everything's fine, there's nothing wrong with you, you look fine. And it was always just getting shut down as if I was, making it up, or as if it wasn't really happening. But I knew inside that it was happening. We know when our bodies are telling us something's wrong, and when our bodies are, telling us here's pain, or here's this is something bothering you. We know, and we need to listen to our bodies. So I never ever, me and my fiance, we never gave up on me and finding answers and finally getting to the diagnosis of it. So when I finally got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, they put me on medications. That was trial and error for sure. It was, trying all different kinds of medications, seeing what works, what doesn't work, the side effects. And one of the medications that I started to take, that actually, I was like the 1% chance of people that get rare side effects. And I got levator reticularis from my medication, which causes my legs and my arms to turn purple. And in the beginning, it happened, just when the temperature would change, if it was too hot or too cold, it would happen. Now it just kind of has a mind of its own. So that's another thing that I think is really important that people don't talk about, is that, medications and all of these things, they might be able to solve your problem. They might be able to alleviate some of the pain, or they might be able to help you in some way. But there is that risk that potentially you could have something else happen. And that's exactly what happened to me. So now I have fibromyalgia along with levator reticularis, and that's a little bit of my journey. So it basically causes me pain throughout my entire body from head to toe. The bottom of my feet, they feel like I'm walking on coals, on like hot coals or on fire. If I'm standing for too long, or if I'm just having a really, really bad flare up day, I get excruciating headaches to the point where I can't even see straight, depending on the day. But I always know when I'm waking up in the morning, I always know exactly how that day is going to go, depending on my pain levels when I wake up. So usually I wake up feeling pretty sore, and then throughout the day, it gets worse if I'm having a really, really bad day.
Man, yeah, I completely resonate with the in the morning, because the way that my chronic pain works, which is not as consistent as yours to the level of yours, but I can tell in the morning, like this is going to be a good day or this is going to be a bad day. And the question is just to what extent, and can I manage my tasks for that day amongst it? So I think it's really important that we talk more about all of the various side effects, because all medicine is this weird alchemy puzzle of what your body is, what the medicine is, how your body reacts to this one medicine that then reacts to this other medicine. And it's so much. And so the constantly evolving journey of trying to live in your body has to be almost a full-time job. And yet on your choice with that is to continue to be in community, to continue to create spaces for people to have these conversations, which I think is so beautiful.
Absolutely. I think, the way that I view it is that we can try all of these things, right? I've tried therapies, I've tried the pool therapy. Everyone's heard of that. I've tried it all. But what we don't realize is that the amount of years it took us to learn something, if we have that knowledge, if we have that information, why wouldn't we pass that along to other people? Why wouldn't we help people get there on their journey even faster? That's what it's all about, just being able to come together and remind people that it's okay. Like, listen, if we allow these things that just happen in life. And I say it all the time now. People think I'm crazy when I say it, but I say it all the time now that my fibromyalgia has been a blessing to me. It has changed my life completely. And although, it does cause me pain, when I was looking back at my old life with the modeling and acting, I always asked myself, what was my purpose, or what was my end goal? What was I accomplishing? And I never could answer that because it was just a career I absolutely loved. I enjoyed it. It was fun, but that was about it. Now when I look in my life and I ask myself, what's my purpose? I know exactly what my purpose is. My purpose is to remind everybody that it is going to be okay, and you can be anyone you want to be. You can do anything that you want to do, and there's nothing and no one that could stop you from doing that. So often we get so caught up in the day-to-day things and all the noise and chaos that goes on around us, but when we finally start to realize that we can continue to fight through these things, I always hear people saying go from surviving to thriving, and it's so true. It is so true. We get to make that decision every single day. And even for me, I mean, I'm in pain, I would say probably 98% of the time, but I don't use that as an excuse that I can't accomplish certain things. I know exactly what my end goal is, and I use my why of why I started in the first place, what I want to accomplish with that, how many people I can help, how many people we can all help together, and the global impact that we can make together to just help one another, to support one another, to empower one another, to remind each other that these are things that we can get through. So that's, that keeps me going every single day. That's what keeps me going.
I love it. And I think what came to mind as you were talking about that you don't make excuses is the difference between excuses and accommodations. And I think like there are days that your body doesn't let you do certain things, but that's not an excuse that you can't do other things. It just means you have to work with your body in a way. Like today is a perfect example. Like we can have this conversation, we just couldn't have it on camera. And I think a lot of people not in chronic pain don't understand the amount of accommodations that folks have to do all the time. But that's a lesson that kind of the rest of us can learn, is that goals are still achievable even if you have to accommodate how you get there. And even if you have to shift how you make that goal happen, it doesn't mean that this one, because it won't work the exact way you want it to work, that it can't be achieved.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's the thing is, that's why I made the decision to be able to work from home. That's why I started my blog and I started the sisterhood. The sisterhood, why I started that was a whole different story. But this is why I continue to show up every single day, because I want people, listen, it took me 7.5 years to get to this point where I am today. If I can help someone right now, save them 7.5 years, why the heck wouldn't I do it? Right. And these things, life is so short. I tell people this all the time. And when you really, really have this perspective, it changes everything. It will change your life completely. My journey started out where I was having fun and I was doing all these things. And one day I woke up, my entire life was flipped upside down. And what I learned from this is that life is short. We don't know, we have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring. That's a fact. I woke up one day, nothing happened. I just woke up and that was it. We have no clue what tomorrow is going to bring. So if we're not showing up as our best selves every single day, if we're not walking in our purpose, like if people don't have that feeling every single day, when you wake up and you don't have that feeling of butterflies in your stomach or in your heart, you could just feel the passion and the love that you have for everything that you are doing, then we need to reevaluate, because life is too short. This is people's dreams. This is people's goals in their lives that we're talking about. And so often people will put that on hold thinking, I'll do it tomorrow. That's always the go-to is I'll figure it out tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow. I'll do everything tomorrow. And tomorrow's not promised. It's today, right now, in this moment is what matters. And, we're always talking about, I always hear everybody talking about the generational wealth. We all want to pass down the generational wealth. But what people don't realize is that we are the generational wealth. What can we pass down to others for when we're no longer here? The wealth of knowledge, the things that we've learned along the way, the 7.5 year journey of doctors and tests and all these things that I've gotten done. What can we do to pass it down to others, to future leaders, to people, to make a difference in the world, to truly make a difference in the world, even doing one kind thing a day, whether it's holding the door open for someone or telling someone how beautiful they look or complimenting them on a new profile picture, whatever it is, that's making a difference. And each and every single one of us has that choice and that decision every single day to make the world a better place. Maybe it takes us a while to finally get diagnosed, but that doesn't have to be for everyone. If we pass those things down to others, they're going to know it right now, and they're not going to have to go through all those doctors or 7.5 years worth of struggling and suffering. They're not going to have to be told all the time that they're making it up or that they need to see a psychiatrist and be put down. They're not going to have to do any of those things because we pass things down. We help others and support others and empower others and remind them that they are not alone on this journey.
I love that so, so much. And I've heard you speak with that level of passion before on Clubhouse, which you mentioned the sisterhood club that you've created. And for me, the two rooms that really, really go with this idea of legacy and wealth, that is really what you're talking about, are the chronic pain room that you've already said, but then also the Friday and Saturday night rooms, where you and a team of people hold space for everyone's voice to be heard. And I think that's a huge, and like literally, like for folks who don't know Clubhouse, most rooms, and I'm the same, most of the rooms I run have a certain stop period. You know, we're only holding this room for an hour, we're only holding it for 90 minutes, blah, blah, blah. But these rooms that I'm talking about, Zavanna holds for literally, like I've seen them go for 24 hours. Like they'll
Oh
go
yeah.
however long people need them to go. And to me, that really fits with what you're talking about, being the wealth in other people's lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know, the Sisterhood of Influential Entrepreneurs, that I started because it was my first week on Clubhouse, and I had no idea who anyone was. I didn't know what I was doing, and I just was looking around, and any opportunity I have to share my story, I always try to share my story, because like I said, even if one person is affected by it in a positive way, or you put a smile on their face or whatever it is, if any good can come out of it, then that's a huge accomplishment for me. So I happened to see this room on Clubhouse, and it said something about share your story. So I popped in for a little bit and I listened in, and I was like, wow, these people are so inspirational. They're helping so many people. So I decided, and we all know what it's like to finally build up that courage to raise your hand. We've all been there, we know. And I finally built up the courage to raise my hand. I was terrified. And as soon as I raised my hand, they turned off the hand raising. And I waited a little while. I said, oh, I'm sure they'll probably call me up. I'm sure, I could imagine. And they never called me up. They called everybody else up, but they never allowed me to come up. And I stayed the entire duration of the room. And they, for some reason, didn't want me to speak. And in that moment, I felt so invisible. I felt like, why does somebody have that much power over someone else? Or how does someone determine if your story is good enough or if it's not? How does someone ever have that much power, that much control? And I promised myself that week, it was the same exact week, I said I would never, ever, ever allow anyone to make me feel that way ever again. And I would ensure that I would do something about it to make sure that no one ever felt that way. So I started the Sisterhood of Influential Entrepreneurs Club that week, and I made it a promise. I think a lot of times, people say that they're going to do certain things, but I said I was going to do something, and I did it because I truly believe in it. I truly believe that everybody's voice deserves to be heard. Everybody's story matters. I truly believe that if we come together and we genuinely want to support one another, want what's best for one another, I mean, we could move mountains. There's nothing that we can't do when we're all together supporting one another. There's nothing. So I created that club just to keep a safe space for everyone. I wanted everybody to be able to come into the rooms, to be able to come into the club and to be able to share about themselves or share about their stories, comfortable or uncomfortable, and that's been my mission. My mission is to be able to allow others to walk in their purpose, to be able to allow others to be heard and to have that voice, because everybody deserves to have a voice.
My God, I'm just sitting here like if this was our traditional video podcast, my head would look like a bobblehead right now. I'm just absolutely nodding with everything you are saying. I can't also think of a better place to end our conversation for tonight, because you've said everything honestly so beautifully. So anybody who would like to get in touch with Zavanna or join Clubhouse and be in the spaces that we've been talking about, the links to be able to do that are going to be below in the show notes, and don't hesitate to do that. I hope what you've gotten from this conversation is that there's a lot of warmth in that space, and that Zavanna is like a walking hospitality bomb. She just wants everyone to be included all the time. And so if those are spaces that you're looking to be in, definitely join Clubhouse and follow her around the club. Zavanna, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun, and I'm truly so honored to be a part of your podcast and to be able to listen. Even if one person is inspired by this, then I feel very, very proud and accomplished, and you should as well. So I want to thank you for giving me this space and for allowing me to be able to share with everyone and to just remind everybody that they're not alone. Reach out, feel free to reach out. If there's anything at all that I could do to help or support anyone, that's what I'm all about. I live for it. I walk in my purpose every single day, and I will continue to do so. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. If you just want to talk, whatever it is, that's what I am here for. And I want to thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Well, everybody, if you liked this conversation, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. I know it sounds lame, but the algorithm really loves it. And if you love these conversations and these kind of conversations about welcome and voices and legacy and empathy, then you'll like everything else we do on this channel. So hit subscribe and click that bell so you don't miss a single thing that the Good Doctors are doing. Thanks again to Zavanna for being such a generous guest with her story and her words. And I will see you next time on Welcome to My World.